we want to move on. Yeah, terrible situation. To the other side of this story, of course, which is Turkey, the epicenter there of the earthquake, where there's also quite a bit of devastation, of course, but also quite a bit going on in terms of people-centered relief efforts. And we are very honored to be joined as we continue the show by Burçak Özoğlu, who is a member of the Communist Party of Turkey Council and also the Crisis Management Coordinating Desk of the TKP there in Turkey. Burçak, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you for inviting us.
The first question I have is if you could just give us a sense of the scale of the devastation there in Turkey and also something about the relief efforts that I know the TKP is mounting.
On the 6th of February, there were two big earthquakes on the same day. First, at the very early hours of the 6th of February on Monday, it was the magnitude 7.7, and then in the afternoon there was another one, again a very big magnitude of 7.6. And that earthquake was on the fault line of the southeast region of Turkey. And it affected 10 provinces, and it affected 1/6 of the whole population of Turkey. That makes the population of Turkey is above 885 million people. So it was a very, very big in scale. But it was not only that, that natural disaster, which was already big in scale, and it was a very intense disaster. It affected 10 provinces, and hundreds of thousands of buildings were collapsed. And the death toll is estimated to be over 100,000 of people dead. So that was a really, really big, very intense disaster for Turkey, or the people of Turkey.
I'm curious, many people. Sorry, go ahead. Sorry, finish. Go ahead.
No. I'm just trying to explain the magnitude of that disaster by just explaining 10 provinces with actually some cities already totally collapsed. Buildings are collapsed. The total infrastructure is destroyed. The schools, hospitals, and some public buildings, administrative buildings, are also destroyed or collapsed. So that was actually some of the cities are now erased already from the maps of that region. So that was how big the earthquake and how hard it hit the country. And you asked how the relief efforts actually started. For the first couple of hours in that region, the earthquake region, there were already no government intervention, no official people were there. As one of the political parties, which were actually working for people, trying to be in solidarity with people, Communist Party of Turkey has actually took action from the first hours of the earthquake. We have arranged a pioneer group to actually discover what happened in the region. And that was a group which already also consisted of a team for search and rescue, and a team for actually discovering and just preparing our relief centers or solidarity centers there. And when we arrived at the region, we couldn't see any other officials to help people there, or to just intervene the big disaster. So that the whole thing actually started in the region with individual effort, with efforts of some political parties, some groups of people, or some civil society people. And it's still going on like that. So there is no organized intervention from the government. We cannot see any official state intervention or help or relief effort at the region now.
And I just want to mention that an hour ago, there was a 5.2 magnitude earthquake in central Turkey, which I felt here in Beirut, Lebanon. So obviously these aftershocks are continuing and continuing probably to cause some damage as well, especially with these very fragile buildings. But, many people in the media are referring to this as a natural disaster. And indeed, an earthquake is a natural disaster. But did the policies of the AKP government contribute at all to the scale of the tragedy?
Sure, that is a natural disaster for sure, but the natural dimension is now almost negligible. The all urbanization policies, which were actually led by the liberal market rules, the unequal and unjust social of the country, the whole construction sector became the biggest capitalist power in the country, actually led this disaster. So all the cities have collapsed because of that unjust, irrational policies of the government. So that the earthquake was very big in magnitude, but the whole urbanization policies, the whole lack of the government intervention actually made it a more deep and intense disaster for the people of the region and of Turkey in total.
One of the other things I'm curious about along similar lines is, in the context of your relief efforts, have there been bureaucratic obstacles? I mean, have the government's own actions made it more difficult to provide relief?
TKP now actually holds 7 solidarity centers on the region, and we are providing aid there. We had some search and rescue operations as well. And the materials are transferred there. And actually, the absolute absence of the government becomes an obstacle. Because TKP, by its very organized and full of solidarity feelings, intervention helps people there, but there are no other governmental responsible points. So our party actually does more than it has to. So there are no bureaucratic obstacles. There is an absolute absence of bureaucracy. No any official points. No health service. No policing. No security. No relief services are organized. They have sources. The Turkish government have sources, but they cannot just organize them. Maybe because they don't want to, and instead of being obstacles, we are now actually asking them to have the responsibility to do what they have to do, so that we will take the responsibility to build that solidarity to help our people, but not actually try to fulfill what the government has to do.
There's so many, because of the war in Syria, there's so many refugees, especially in southern Syria, where this earthquake, or at least one of the earthquakes, left so much devastation. So what has been the impact of this disaster on the refugees that live in Turkey?
The most of the Syrian refugees in the country lives in that area of Turkey, and they had already very poor conditions. They had very poor infrastructures in their buildings. So, of course, they were also affected very badly in that region, and also. The refugees, the Syrian refugees, and their conditions are actually abused by some of the reactionary ideologies in the country. So they are trying to point them as being the scapegoats of some unorganized issues in some very critical social issues. So the refugees and the refugee camps are also affected very badly, and they cannot receive any, if there is any relief in that region. So they are in a very, very poor condition as well as the other population of the country.
Finally, one thing I just wanted to ask is, in very much in the context of everything you said so far, I mean, what does this disaster say about the sort of changes that are needed in Turkey more broadly to make society, more equal, more just? Obviously, you can't prevent earthquakes, but at least to make the unnatural part of what happened a thing of the past.
I think there may be one good thing about that big disaster for our people. The people in Turkey have discovered solidarity. The people of Turkey have discovered the importance of being united, being organized, and have discovered the importance of a very strong state of people. So that will actually help for our appeal for build a new future. And TKP also just very recently released an appeal for the people to actually gain back our country, an appeal for standing up for building a just, a secular, an anti-capitalist, anti-imperialist country, not to be buried once again under this type of a debris.
Mm-hmm. Solidarity is stronger than an earthquake, I believe, is the slogan. Really amazing work that you all have going on there. Again, Burçak Özoğlu from the TKP Party Council. It's the Communist Party of Turkey and their Crisis Management Coordination Desk. Thank you so much for joining us here on the Freedom Side.